An orgasm is not just a physical release, it is a surrender, a softening, a moment in which the psyche allows itself to lose control. For many people, this letting go is effortless, but for others it becomes a mystery. The desire is present, the arousal builds, the body is responsive, and yet the final release will not come. The barrier feels physical, but its roots almost always lie in the emotional world. Orgasmic difficulties are rarely about technique. They are about trust, vulnerability, and the unconscious fear of surrender. In depth psychology, an orgasm is understood as a moment in which the psyche steps aside and permits the body to take over. This requires safety. It requires the absence of vigilance. It requires the ability to lose oneself without fear of what might surface in that moment of release. When someone cannot climax, it is not because the body is defective. It is because the psyche is guarding a door it does not yet feel safe to open. 2. Consider a woman who feels deep affection for her partner and enjoys sexual intimacy, yet cannot reach orgasm. She may feel frustrated, confused, or ashamed, but the barrier is not her desire. It is her history. Perhaps she grew up in a home where emotions were tightly controlled, where showing need or pleasure was seen as childish or inappropriate. Her psyche learned early: stay composed, do not explode outward, do not surrender control. In adulthood, this rule remains active. Her body can approach pleasure, but the final release feels like a threat to the identity she built to survive. Not consciously, but emotionally. Another example: a man who can orgasm alone but not with a partner. His difficulty is not physical, it is relational. When he is alone, he controls pace, fantasy, emotion. Nothing unexpected happens. But with another person present, something changes. The presence of someone else introduces unpredictability. It introduces the possibility of being seen, truly seen, in a moment of vulnerability. For a man who grew up without emotional safety, or whose masculinity was tied to performance, being witnessed during surrender may feel intolerably exposing. His body holds back as if to say, not here, not now, not where I can be judged. Orgasm blocks also appear in people who carry unprocessed grief or trauma. The orgasm requires expansion, a softening of internal defenses. But grief contracts the body. Trauma creates hypervigilance. In such cases, the nervous system mistrusts intensity. The person may fear that if they let go completely, something overwhelming, sadness, fear, rage, might come with it. The orgasm is blocked, not because pleasure is unwanted, but because feeling too much feels dangerous. Sometimes the root is subtle. A person may have learned early that pleasure must be earned, justified, or hidden. They carry an unconscious belief that enjoyment is selfish or shameful. The orgasm, which is the purest form of receiving without giving, becomes psychologically blocked. The body refuses to release because the psyche still believes it must maintain control to remain acceptable. For others, orgasm is tied to emotional closeness. A person who fears dependency may experience a physical shutdown just as intimacy deepens. The orgasm, which creates a moment of unity, can feel like a surrender of boundaries. If someone learned that closeness leads to suffocation or loss of autonomy, their body interrupts the process to protect them. They may desire their partner deeply, yet still feel their arousal collapse just before climax. The psyche is not rejecting the partner, it is protecting the self. One of the most revealing patterns appears in people who are performers in bed, those who focus intensely on doing everything right, pleasing their partner, appearing confident. Performance prevents pleasure. The person remains in the observing position, monitoring themselves, evaluating, controlling. The orgasm cannot arrive because the watcher cannot release. Their sexual energy is directed outward, not inward. The moment they try to climax, the observing mind steps in. Is this enough? Am I good? Am I failing? The body responds by freezing. Orgasmic difficulties are often misunderstood as physical dysfunctions, but the body tells a different story. When the body does not let go, it is because some part of the psyche still needs protection. The block is intelligent. It says, "Not yet. Not until you feel safe enough to surrender." Healing begins when the person stops fighting their body and starts listening to it. Orgasm is a mirror. It reflects trust, emotional safety, boundaries, self-image, and unresolved history. When these elements become conscious, the body softens, not immediately, not magically, but gradually. The person learns to permit themselves to receive, to feel, to be vulnerable without fear. The orgasm becomes possible not because they tried harder, but because the emotional weight restricting it finally loosened. An orgasm is not an achievement, it is permission. And when the psyche no longer fears what might emerge in that moment of release, the body does what it has always known how to do.